The Wild West. Hollywood has shown you your whole life? Pure fiction. Saloons weren't those charming places with honorable cowboys. They were filthy dumps where men lost everything: money, dignity, and even their lives. Sheriff's journals from that time reveal stories the studios never had the guts to tell. Subscribe to our channel and drop some hype on our video because that helps us a lot. Number 1. Saloon whiskey could kill you. Greedy owners would water down the liquor and then strengthen the mix with deadly ingredients. Strychnine, the same poison used to kill rats, was added in small doses to create a fake feeling of energy and power. Sulfuric acid gave that burn cowboys associated with strong booze, and tobacco oil rounded out the scam. The result? The acid literally ate away the lining of the stomach, causing ulcers and internal bleeding. The strychnine attacked the central nervous system, triggering seizures, violent muscle spasms, and what they called whiskey madness. Plenty of men who drank this fire water for years developed permanent tremors, lost their sight, or just dropped dead. The saloon owners knew exactly what they were serving. Profit came first, human lives came second. Number 2. Dodge City, 1880s. These women worked in the upstairs rooms of the saloons. They charged 25 cents for a dance, but the real money came after. The problem? Syphilis spread like wildfire, and the treatment was almost worse than the disease. Doctors had patients inhale mercury vapor in sealed chambers. The saying back then said it all. One night with Venus, a lifetime with Mercury. The heavy metal went after the bacteria, but it wrecked the body too. First, teeth fell out. Then came shaky hands, memory loss, hallucinations. In severe cases, the bones literally dissolved. A lot of people would rather hide the disease and die slowly than face years of mercury poisoning. Doctors knew the risks, but they had no other option until penicillin showed up 60 years later. Number 3. The engineers of the con. Forget luck. In Wild West saloons, gambling was pure engineering. American inventors patented devices that worked like precision machines. The most ingenious was the holdout, a mechanical arm hidden up a cheater's sleeve. With calibrated springs and thin cables, the gadget delivered cards into the palm of the hand in a split second. All it took was a bend of the elbow. The tables were traps, too. Carpenters built false bottoms with compartments that opened with pressure from the knee. The dealer could swap out the whole deck without anyone noticing. The dice were pieces of dishonest clockwork. Some had liquid mercury inside microscopic chambers. The weight shifted depending on the angle. Others used melted lead in specific faces. The number 6 came up 3 times more than normal. In Tombstone, professional dealers used these tricks on miners who showed up with gold in their pockets and whiskey in their blood. Number 4. Constant fights. Punches and bottles were flying over nothing. Abilene, 1870s. Saloons opened at 7 in the morning, and the fights started right after. Cowboys showed up after months on cattle drives, money in their pockets and zero patience. One wrong look was enough to send a chair flying, but here's what nobody tells you. The punch rarely killed on the spot. The problem came later. A bottle cut on the arm, a bite during the fight, broken teeth punching through the lip. Wounds that today you'd fix with stitches and antibiotics. Back then, infection was a death sentence. Doctors estimate that fight injuries had an infection rate over 60%. Without penicillin, sepsis took over in days. The guy survived Saturday's beating and died of fever the next Wednesday. Abilene sheriffs recorded more deaths from wound fever than from gunshots. The fight was just the beginning. The real killer was invisible. Number 5, the business behind the smoke. San Francisco, 1860s. In the back of saloons, windowless rooms hid a profitable trade. Opium dens were designed on purpose. Thick walls and zero ventilation made the smoke build up, speeding up customers' addiction. The pipes weren't simple. The Chinese design used a ceramic bowl that heated the opium to the exact temperature. Too hot, and it burned. Too cold, and it didn't release the alkaloids. The gum was processed with lime and boiling water, creating an extract the brain absorbed in seconds. Cowboys blew a month's pay in a week. When the money ran out, opium became currency. It got traded for guns, horses, even land deeds. The Chinese operators understood a basic rule of economics. An addicted customer is a guaranteed customer. The math was simple. One dose cost 25 cents. A worker made $1 a day. Do the math. Number 6, one woman, 50 drunks, a revolver under the bar, Denver, 1880s. Few women worked in saloons, but the ones who did developed survival tactics. Martha Canary, known as Calamity Jane, didn't rely on luck. She studied the room. She knew most fights started between the 3rd and 4th round of whiskey. She spotted the troublemakers before she even served them. She kept a sawed-off shotgun under the bar, always on the right side. Boiling water on the stove behind her. A heavy club near the bottles. Her position was never random, always facing the door, never trapped in a corner. When a customer pushed too far, she didn't yell. She lowered her voice. Drunk men respond better to calm commands. If words failed, the sound of the hammer being cocked handled it. Few had to fire more than once to build a reputation. Number 7, the salt trick that still works on you. Your body runs on a delicate balance. When you eat salted peanuts or ham, sodium enters your bloodstream and raises the salt concentration in your plasma. Your brain detects that change in seconds through sensors in the hypothalamus. The response is automatic: intense thirst. Saloon owners in the 1870s figured this out without understanding the science. They just noticed that men eating free peanuts ordered more beer. A lot more. The cost of the salty snacks was pennies compared to the profit on drinks. It was biological manipulation before the term even existed. Your nervous system reacting exactly the way a mustached bartender planned, even though he'd never heard of osmolality. 150 years later, every American bar still uses the same tactic. Pretzels, peanuts, potato chips. Human physiology hasn't changed. The trick still works perfectly on every one of us. Number 8. Turned away at the front door, Black men and Native Americans created their own spaces. That's how juke joints were born. Wooden shacks on rural roads where whiskey flowed freely and the blues started taking shape. But there was a serious problem: the booze. With no access to regular suppliers, these places relied on homemade or bootleg liquor. A lot of it was cut with kerosene, chewed tobacco, or even rat poison to make it stronger. The result? Blindness, paralysis, and death were real risks for a night out. Meanwhile, in the official Texas saloons, Jim Crow laws were locking in. Segregation wasn't just custom, it was becoming law. What few people know is that many juke joints survived for decades, hidden in the woods, and were the birthplace of an entire American music culture. Number 9. The piano that controlled your thirst. Kansas City, 1890s. Saloon owners figured out something science would only confirm decades later. Fast music makes you drink faster. Ragtime wasn't chosen by accident. That syncopated rhythm between 120 and 150 beats per minute worked like an invisible metronome. Your body synced up with the music without you even noticing. Sip after sip on the piano's timing. The so-called professors got paid twice. One paycheck for the talent, another for keeping quiet. When a fight broke out or shots were fired, the pianist cranked up the volume and the tempo. Nobody out on the street heard a thing. Nobody stopped drinking. It was applied psychology before the term even existed. The constant noise covered up illegal business talk. The faster rhythm emptied glasses and filled cash registers. Those musicians understood sound manipulation better than any modern advertiser. Number 10. Fake gold scams. They sold painted nuggets. California, 1850s. Exhausted miners walked into saloons with nuggets that could be pure gold or painted trash. Bartenders became the West's first chemical detectives. The trick was simple: basic physics. Gold weighs 19.3 grams per cubic centimeter. Painted lead, only 11.3. Pyrite, the famous fool's gold, a measly 5 grams. Same nugget, totally different weight. Here's how the test worked. The bartender took the nugget, guessed its size, and felt the weight in his hand. Too light for its volume? Fake. Some went further. They bit the metal. Pure gold is soft and leaves a tooth mark. Pyrite is hard and chips enamel. The acid test was the final word. Nitric acid dissolves lead and copper in seconds. Real gold? It doesn't even scratch. Scammers got exposed right there at the bar. A lot of them paid with their lives over a painted nugget. Number 11. Before banks showed up, prospectors stored their gold with someone they trusted, the saloon owner. And it made sense. Bankers were suit-wearing outsiders who could disappear overnight. But the bartender? He had roots in town, a reputation to protect, and, more importantly, a steel safe bolted to the wooden floor. Those safes back then used cast iron plates half an inch thick, screwed and riveted together. Impressive, but far from unbreakable. Dynamite? It went through that armor like hot butter. That's why a lot of owners chained the safe to the building's frame, betting thieves wouldn't have time to saw through everything before the sheriff showed up. In Deadwood in the 1870s, robberies were so common that some saloons charged up to 15% just to hold your gold dust. Steep fee, but losing everything was worse. Number 12. Absinthe showed up in the Wild West with a reputation for causing visions and madness. They called it the Green Fairy and swore men lost their minds after a few sips. But modern science tells a different story. Thujaune, the compound in absinthe, acts on the brain's GABA receptors, similar to some sedatives, but the amount in the drink was too low to cause real hallucinations. The real culprit? The brutal 70% alcohol content. Compare that. Whiskey is around 40%. So when cowboys said they were seeing weird things, it was severe alcohol intoxication, not green magic. Current studies show you'd have to drink liters of absinthe for Thujaune to have an effect, but the alcohol would kill the person first. Absinthe madness was regular alcoholism, wrapped in European mystery that sold well in American saloons. Number 13. Saloons as post offices. They delivered letters for a tip. Before Facebook existed, the saloon was the whole town's timeline. Every piece of information passed through there first. The bartender knew who owed money, who was messing around with someone else's wife, which outsiders were dangerous. He controlled the flow of news like a human algorithm, deciding what to spread and what to keep to himself. Letters came in on the stagecoach and got piled up on the bar. With no fixed address out west, the saloon became the community's mailbox. You tipped the bartender to hold your mail and tipped again so he wouldn't read it first. In 1870s Wyoming, a delayed letter could mean a lost deal or a fiancé who didn't wait. Men pulled guns over less. The bartender was the Mark Zuckerberg of vests and mustaches. He didn't create the social network. He was the social network. Number 14, the brothel that worked like a spy hub, Colorado, 1880s. While miners celebrated their finds in saloons, they didn't realize they were being watched. The women working in those places developed a sophisticated system for gathering information. A drunk man would talk too much about where he found gold, and that information was worth money. A lot of money. Big mining corporations paid well for those details. They wanted the exact location of new veins before small-time miners could file their claims. The women memorized technical details, place names, and access routes. Some kept hidden notebooks with precise notes. By the time a miner woke up the next morning, his secret had already been sold. It was pure industrial espionage, decades before that term even existed. Men lost fortunes without a single shot being fired. Number 15, shootouts over debts. Cowboys killed over unpaid drinks, El Paso, 1880s. In a place where cash was rare, credit ran on your word. Bartenders kept tabs, little record books where they wrote down every whiskey, every beer you drank on credit. The problem? Those debts were honor contracts. Not paying meant calling the bartender a sucker in front of everyone. It was public humiliation. And in the Wild West, men died for less. El Paso police records show dozens of shootouts that started like this. A cowboy came back to the saloon, the bartender asked for the tab, words got exchanged, guns came out. It wasn't about the pennies for the whiskey. It was about reputation. A man who wouldn't honor a small debt wouldn't honor anything. He'd lose credit all over town. He became a social dead man. That's why bartenders stayed armed. And that's why a lot of cowboys paid the bill, even without a cent in their pocket, with their own lives. Number 16, justice at the bar, when the saloon was the courthouse. Montana, 1870s. With no public buildings, judges set up court wherever they could, in saloons. The same bar that served whiskey at night turned into a judge's bench in the morning. The problem? Everybody drank during the proceedings, judges, jurors, lawyers, even witnesses. In Virginia City, a jury deliberated for 3 hours while the bar owner kept pouring rounds. The verdict came out along with the 5th bottle. The conflict of interest was ridiculous. The judge owed the saloon keeper money. The defendant was a regular. The witnesses wanted it over with so they could get back to drinking. In some cases, the sentence depended on who bought the next round. Cattle theft, brawls, and even murder cases were decided like that. The line between law and chaos was as thin as beer foam. These bar trials show how the West created its own version of justice, flawed, drunk, but working the best way it could. Number 17, Arizona Rattlesnake Whiskey. In Arizona saloons in the 1880s, cowboys swore that whiskey with a rattlesnake in it cured a hangover and gave you bull strength. Crazy? Maybe. But science explains why they didn't die. Snake venom is basically protein, and protein has a delicate structure like molecular origami. The strong alcohol in whiskey acts like a wrecking ball for that architecture. It breaks the bonds that keep the toxin functional. Biochemists call this denaturation. Same thing that happens when you fry an egg. The egg white changes because heat destroyed the protein's structure, so the venom in the glass hit the stomach already scrambled, unable to attack your nervous system. Stomach acid finished the job. Now, the real danger. If the guy had an ulcer or any wound in the digestive tract, then the game changed. Any leftover toxin could go straight into the bloodstream. A lot of people found that out the hard way. Number 18. The secret was in the floor plan. Kansas saloons in the 1870s weren't just bars. Local architects designed those buildings with a double purpose that nobody admitted in public. Up front, the regular bar. Long counter, card tables, a front door you could clearly see from the main street. All normal. But the back told a different story. A narrow hallway led to the cribs, tiny cubicles, some with barely 2 square meters. Officially, rooms for travelers to rest. In practice, everyone in town knew what went on back there. The layout was intentional. Customers walked into the saloon, drank whiskey, then disappeared down the back hallway. A separate exit opened onto the alley. Nobody saw who went in or out of the cribs. Owners made money twice, on drinks and on the rooms. Tax documents from the time show room rentals listed as declared income. The architecture protected reputations. The secret stayed hidden behind the bar.